There are hotels that feel old, and then there are hotels that feel wrong. You know the difference the moment you step inside. The air feels too still, the hallways too quiet, and something in your body whispers not to stay. That's exactly what happened to me the night I checked into room 409 of the Coldridge Mountain Hotel, a room the staff never offered unless everything else was full. A room they warned me about twice. A room I should have avoided. The first thing I heard after closing the door was someone whispering my name from inside the dark bathroom. Not outside the room. Not through the wall. Inside. A slow, shaky whisper that didn't match anyone I knew. My stomach dropped. I froze. And the worst part? I wasn't even alone. Something was standing in that bathroom, breathing softly like it had been waiting. I arrived at the hotel just past midnight after driving through a violent snowstorm in the mountains. My GPS died, the fuel light came on, and the hotel appeared out of nowhere like a lonely shape in the whiteout. Old wooden beams, a long porch, dim lanterns. It looked half abandoned until the lobby lights flickered on. The woman behind the desk looked exhausted. Not irritated, just worn out in a heavy way. "You need a room?" she asked. "Yeah. Anything you have." She hesitated before answering. "All the main rooms are full. You'll have to take something in the older wing, near the boiler hall." I didn't care. I was freezing and tired. "That's fine." She reached toward the key rack, then stopped. Her hand hovered over one brass key as if deciding whether to give it to me. She checked the other keys again, then finally sighed. "You'll have to take 409. She didn't meet my eyes when she handed me the key. Her fingers trembled slightly. "Listen," she said quietly. "If you hear anything tonight, anything, don't open your door, don't respond, and keep the bathroom light on." I blinked at her. "What?" She forced a thin smile and shook her head. "The old wiring plays tricks. Just trust me." Before I could question further, she added, "If your room phone rings, don't answer it." A chill crawled up my spine. "What's wrong with the room?" "It's old," she said, pretending it was no big deal. Nothing more. The older wing felt like stepping into another century. The carpet was faded, wallpaper peeling at the edges, lights buzzing and dimming as I walked. The hallway echoed even though it was short. When I reached room 409, the doorknob was colder than the storm outside. My breath fogged in the hallway. Inside, everything looked normal. A bed, a desk, a window facing the woods, and a bathroom with a frosted glass door. But the room felt lived in. The air carried the faint scent of perfume, sweet at first inhale, rotten the next. The bathroom was completely dark. The woman's warning replayed in my mind. "Keep the bathroom light on." I stepped toward the switch. Just as my fingers touched it, a whisper drifted out of the darkness. "You finally came back." A woman's voice. Too close. Too real. I staggered backward, staring at the door. Something inside the bathroom shifted. Bare feet turning on tile. Then breathing, slow, heavy, waiting. The room phone rang suddenly, the old brass one on the desk. I froze. The woman at the front desk had warned me. If the phone rings on its own, don't answer. It rang again. And again. And again. I backed away, eyes never leaving the bathroom door. The ringing stopped. Silence. Then the bathroom doorknob slowly began to turn. Metal clicking softly. Someone inside testing how quietly they could open it. My body reacted before my mind did. I grabbed my bag and bolted out the door, running down the hallway, barely breathing. I reached the lobby and slammed the key onto the desk. "I'm not staying in that room," I said, trembling. "There's someone in the bathroom." They whispered. They tried to come out. The woman's expression softened. She didn't look surprised. She looked sad. "What did she say?" she asked. She said, "You finally came back." Her eyes lowered. "They always say that. They think every guest is the same person. The one who left them there." I swallowed hard. "Who?" She looked down at her hands, voice barely above a whisper. "She died in that bathroom. Years ago. And she doesn't know she's gone." After that first terrifying night, I wasn't sure how I managed to sleep at all. Every creak of the old building made me jump, every drafty whisper of wind against the windows felt like someone walking the hallways. I kept the bathroom light on, but even that didn't help. Shadows seemed to stretch and bend in ways that didn't make sense, and I could swear I caught movement out of the corner of my eye. The next morning, I tried to rationalize everything. The voice, the shifting in the bathroom, old wiring, an echo, maybe even my own exhaustion. But even as I walked the hallway to the main lobby for breakfast, a chill ran down my spine. Room 409's door at the end of the hall looked darker than the others, almost like it was absorbing light. I noticed something else, small scuff marks on the carpet outside my door. They weren't there when I arrived, and they didn't make sense. I hadn't touched the hallway floor barefoot, yet something had scraped along it overnight. I tried to ignore it and went to the small dining area. The hotel was quiet, only a few other guests, all avoiding the older wing. The staff never mentioned the previous night, never gave me a second glance, which only made the feeling of wrongness grow. By mid-morning, curiosity got the better of me. I went back to room 409, hesitated outside the door, and slowly pushed it open. Nothing. The room was just as I had left it, the bathroom lights still on, the faint perfume smell lingering. But the air felt heavier, colder somehow, and I could feel a weight pressing down on me. I set my bag on the desk and turned toward the bed. That's when I saw it, small scratches along the edge of the bathroom door frame. Fresh. They hadn't been there before. My heart started to pound. The next hours passed in a blur of tension. Every creak, every shadow, every distant noise made me jump. Guests occasionally passed through the hall, giving the older wing a wide berth. They all seemed to know something I didn't, their eyes darting nervously toward room 409 as they hurried past. By evening, I had made a decision. I had to know what was really going on. I grabbed my phone to call the front desk, but the line was dead. Not just my room, every phone in the hallway, every extension. The hotel had suddenly become isolated. My stomach churned as I realized I was completely alone in that wing. The lights flickered, the air shifted, and then I heard it, footsteps. Slow, deliberate, coming from the end of the hall. Not my footsteps. Someone, or something, was walking toward me. I froze, every nerve screaming. The steps grew louder, and I could hear them pause right outside my door. My breath caught. Then a soft knock. Just one. I didn't answer. I didn't move. I couldn't. A whisper followed, almost like a sigh. "You shouldn't have come back." The sound came from inside room 409. I hadn't opened the door. I hadn't moved. But the voice was closer now, almost inside my head. I ran. I didn't care where. Down the hallway, toward the main lobby, toward anything that wasn't that room. When I finally slammed the lobby door behind me, I realized something horrifying. The staff were gone. The hotel, at least the lobby, was empty. Not a single person in sight. A soft, dragging noise echoed from the older wing. Like someone, or something, was following me. I didn't dare look. I didn't dare move toward the stairwell or the elevator. My only thought was to leave. I grabbed the nearest exit door, but it wouldn't budge. But from the outside, my heart raced. Then the dragging noise grew louder, closer, accompanied by a faint, cold laughter. The sound came from room 409. And then, just as suddenly as it started, everything stopped. Silence. Thick, suffocating silence. I didn't breathe for several minutes, afraid to move, afraid to even blink. When I finally looked back at the older wing, the lights were normal again. The doors unlocked themselves. The hallways looked mundane, almost inviting, like nothing had ever happened. But I knew better. I had heard the voice. I had felt the presence. Room 409 had claimed my fear, and it wasn't finished yet. I checked out the next morning. I told the desk clerk that I had an early emergency, something urgent. She didn't ask any questions. She didn't look at me. But as I handed over the key, her lips twitched slightly, almost like a warning. Some rooms, they don't like visitors. I never forgot that night. Every time I close my eyes, I see the shadowy outline at the bathroom door, feel the cold air, hear the soft whisper. And I know, deep down, that room 409 is waiting for the next guest to come back. The third night at the Coldridge Mountain Hotel was worse than I could have imagined. After my experience in room 409, I swore I would avoid the older wing entirely. But curiosity, or maybe some cruel force, kept pulling me back. I couldn't shake the feeling that the room wasn't done with me yet. I spent the evening in the main building, keeping my back to the hallway that led to the older section. The lobby was quiet, lit by a single lamp that hummed softly. But even in the main building, the hotel didn't feel normal. The air smelled faintly of mildew, and every shadow seemed too dark, too thick, as if the darkness had weight. Around midnight, I heard it. A soft scraping sound from the older wing, like fingernails dragging along wood. I froze. Every instinct screamed at me to leave, to run, to get as far away as possible. But I found myself drawn toward it, toward the impossible pull of that wing. The closer I got, the louder it became. I could hear multiple noises now, faint whispers, soft laughter, the unmistakable shuffle of bare feet. The hallway seemed longer than it had before, twisting unnaturally, doors appearing and disappearing. I blinked, and suddenly I was standing directly outside room 409. The door stood there, unremarkable, yet it radiated menace. My hand shook as I reached for the knob. For a moment, I thought about walking away, but something compelled me to open it. The air inside was colder than the winter outside, heavy with a metallic scent I couldn't identify. The room was empty, or so it seemed. Then the walls shifted. Slowly, subtly at first, as if the room itself were breathing. The wallpaper stretched and contracted, the ceiling seemed lower, and the shadows bent at impossible angles. A soft, hollow voice whispered again, almost reverently, "You shouldn't have returned." I stumbled back, heart racing. Every light in the hallway flickered violently. I could feel a presence, something massive, patient, waiting. The air pressed against my chest, heavy and suffocating, making it nearly impossible to breathe. I heard the bathroom door creak open. Slowly, deliberately. My stomach twisted as I realized the door moved on its own, with no one touching it. I backed away, terrified, but I couldn't leave. Something, a force I could feel more than see, was drawing me toward it. Then came the laughter. Low at first, almost playful, then rising in a shrill crescendo. It echoed from the walls, the ceiling, even the floor. It surrounded me, pressing in from all directions. I could feel it crawling up my legs, my arms, inside my chest. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. My phone wouldn't work. The lights on my keyring flickered and died. I was trapped, alone, with something that didn't belong in this world. And then it moved. Not from the bathroom, not from the door, but from the shadows themselves. Something slithered along the floor, brushing against my feet, cold and wet. I jumped back, tripping over the carpet edge. When I looked up, I could see it clearly for the first time. A dark figure, tall and thin, with hollow eyes that seemed to absorb the light, hovering in the corner of the room. It didn't move toward me at first, but I could feel its gaze, burning, pressing, as if it wanted me to understand its purpose. Then, the bathroom door slammed shut behind me, the lights flickered once, and silence fell. Thick, suffocating silence, broken only by my ragged breathing. I scrambled out of the room, running down the hallway. The shadows shifted around me, slithering, stretching toward my ankles as if trying to hold me back. I didn't look at the older wing again. I didn't stop until I reached the lobby. The desk clerk was gone. The lights flickered, then stabilized. Everything was normal, impossibly normal. My heart was still racing, my limbs trembling, but the hallway looked empty, safe, mundane. I realized then that the hotel itself wasn't just old or creepy. It was alive. It remembered. It watched. It waited for anyone who dared to enter room 409, or any of the rooms in the older wing. I spent the rest of the night in my car, staring at the hotel from outside, refusing to step foot inside. Even then, I could hear it, whispering through the trees, through the wind, a voice as soft and terrifying as silk. "Come back, come back." I thought staying out of the older wing would keep me safe. I thought the hotel had only one dark secret, room 409. I was wrong. By the fourth night, I had learned to avoid the hallways altogether after midnight. But that night, I had no choice. I needed supplies from the main desk, and the storm outside made leaving impossible. The lobby was empty, silent, except for the faint hum of the old heating system. I could feel it immediately. The hotel was awake. Every shadow stretched longer, every creak sharper. My footsteps echoed unnaturally in the hallway leading to the main building. Then I heard it, soft, almost melodic humming, coming from the older wing. It wasn't a child. It wasn't a guest. It was wrong. I stopped, heart pounding. The hum grew louder, like someone or something was moving just behind the walls. I strained to see, but the corridor was dark, almost pitch black. Then the humming stopped abruptly, replaced by a series of faint whispers, overlapping, urgent. "Why are you here? Leave now. You shouldn't have returned." I froze. The voices didn't come from a single source. They came from everywhere, surrounding me. The air grew colder, heavier, pressing against my chest like a physical weight. I tried to rationalize. Maybe it was the wind. Maybe it was my imagination. But then I heard footsteps. Not mine. Not someone else in the lobby. These were deliberate, measured, circling me slowly, echoing through the hall. I glanced toward the older wing. The hallway seemed impossibly long, stretching further than it should. The shadows there weren't normal. They twisted, reaching toward me, bending at angles that defied physics. Something moved in the darkness, just at the edge of my vision. A silhouette, thin and tall, sliding along the walls like liquid. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but my legs felt heavy, rooted to the floor. I realized the hotel wasn't just haunted. It remembered every guest who had come and gone. Every fear, every whisper, every terrified heartbeat. And now it was acknowledging me. A soft thud behind me made me jump. I turned slowly. Nothing. Just shadows. I exhaled shakily, telling myself I imagined it. Then I heard a faint tapping, like fingernails on wood, coming from the far side of the lobby. Tap, 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 getting closer. Each tap sent a shiver down my spine. I tried to move toward the front desk, but the shadows bent toward me, stretching like hands, as if trying to hold me back. The tapping stopped. Silence. Then the faint, unmistakable creak of a door opening. I didn't need to look. I knew. Room 409. The older wing. That same heavy, suffocating presence. I bolted for the exit, but the lobby doors refused to budge. My hands slammed against the cold wood, and just as panic set in, the front desk phone rang, sharply, loudly. My heart leapt. I remembered the clerk's warning. Do not answer if it rings on its own. The line went silent. Then came the whispers again. All around me. From the walls, the ceiling, the floor. Voices overlapping, layering, a chorus of past guests who had vanished, trapped forever inside the hotel. Stay with us. Don't leave. You'll never go home. I dropped to my knees, covering my ears. I couldn't think, couldn't move. The hotel was alive. It had claimed me. It was testing me. I could feel it probing my mind, my fear, my sanity. Then, as suddenly as it began, it stopped. Silence. Stillness. My breath came in ragged gasps. The doors were unlocked. The shadows receded. The lobby looked ordinary. I stumbled outside, finally free, collapsing into the snow. But even in the fresh air, the hotel's presence lingered, heavy, suffocating. I knew I hadn't escaped. Room 409 hadn't finished with me. The older wing had eyes. It had memory. It was patient. And I would return. I didn't know why, but something inside me felt drawn back to it, against all reason, against all fear. That night, I swore I would document everything. Every sound, every shadow, every whisper. Because the hotel doesn't just haunt you. It owns your memory, your fear, your soul. And every night, when the wind rattles the windows, I hear it again. Come back, we've been waiting. By the fifth night, I was no longer just a guest at the Coldridge Mountain Hotel, I was a prisoner of its presence. After the experiences of the previous nights, I knew the older wing wasn't just haunted, it was alive in a way that defied explanation. Remembered, it reacted, it hunted. That night, A blizzard raged outside, and the roads were impassable. I had no choice but to remain in the hotel. Every other guest had left, and the staff kept to the main building, avoiding the older wing entirely. I sat in the lobby, staring at the hallway leading to room 409, my hands trembling, knowing full well that the room had not finished with me. At exactly midnight, I heard it, a slow, deliberate knocking. Not at my door, not at the lobby doors, but coming from the far end of the older wing. Tap, 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 each one echoing, deliberate, as if measured in time with my heartbeat. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. My stomach turned to ice as the knocking became accompanied by faint whispers, snippets of conversation I didn't understand, voices overlapping, rising and falling in urgency. Don't leave. Come here. You're ours now. My rational mind screamed at me to ignore it, but every nerve in my body was screaming fear and recognition. I knew this wasn't imagination. This was real. The hallway light flickered, then died, plunging the older wing into total darkness. I could hear the faint scrape of footsteps moving toward me, slow and precise. I backed into the lobby, eyes fixed on the older wing, but the shadows began to spill into the lobby itself, curling along the floor and creeping along the walls. Something moved in the darkness, a tall, thin silhouette with hollow eyes that seemed to glow faintly. Its presence pressed into me like a physical weight. I wanted to run, but my legs refused to obey. Then came the whispers from inside my mind, clear and direct. You shouldn't have come back. You belong here. I screamed, and the shadows recoiled for a fraction of a second. It was enough for me to make a break for the stairwell. I bolted, my footsteps echoing against the creaking floors. The stairwell seemed endless, twisting unnaturally as if the building itself were rearranging. Doors appeared where there had been none. Corridors led nowhere. I heard the scraping again, closer, faster. The shadows stretched, curling around my ankles, trying to pull me back. I could feel them brush my skin, cold and wet, like the touch of a corpse. I stumbled, nearly falling, but forced myself to keep moving. I finally reached the top floor, gasping for air. The hallway looked ordinary again, as though nothing had happened. But then I saw it. Room 409's door at the end of the hall opened just a crack, though I hadn't seen the door move. Inside, I could make out a faint glow, a flickering light like candle flames, though no candles had been lit. I wanted to leave, to run back to the main lobby, to escape. But my feet moved on their own, drawn forward as if by some invisible force. The closer I got, the more distorted the hallway became. The walls twisted, the ceiling lowered, shadows dancing at impossible angles. Then I heard the voice, calm and soft, almost comforting, yet dripping with menace. Come inside, it's waiting for you. I tried to resist. I told myself it was a trick, my mind playing with exhaustion and fear. But the hotel had learned me. It knew my patterns, my curiosity, my hesitation. And it used them against me. I reached the door. My hand touched the knob. The room seemed to breathe, the walls pulsing slightly as though alive. The faint scent of perfume, sweet and rotten, filled my nostrils. And then, the door swung open on its own, revealing nothing and everything inside. The shadows moved, curling around each other, forming shapes that suggested bodies, faces, reaching hands. The air was thick, suffocating, carrying whispers that seemed to come from all directions at once. Stay with us. You can't leave. You're ours. I stumbled backward, nearly falling. My lungs burned as I ran down the hallway, through twisting corridors, past doors that now seemed endless. Every hallway led me back to the older wing, the room, the presence I could not escape. Finally, exhausted, terrified, and near collapse, I made it to the lobby. The lights flickered back on. The shadows receded. The hotel appeared calm, ordinary, almost welcoming. I sank into a chair, shaking, my hands trembling uncontrollably. I realized the truth. The Coldridge Mountain Hotel wasn't just haunted. It was a predator. Room 409, the older wing, the shadows, they weren't trapped here. They were patient. They were aware. And they waited for every guest who dared enter. and I knew deep down that I had not escaped. Not really. By the sixth night, I knew there was no turning back. The Coldridge Mountain Hotel had claimed me in ways I couldn't explain, ways I couldn't forget. Every creak of the floorboards, every shadow, every distant whisper had become a part of me. Room 409 wasn't just a room, it was a living entity, a prison, a predator. And it was waiting for its final act. I had tried to leave earlier that evening, but the storm outside had made the roads impassable. I was trapped inside the hotel, left with no choice but to confront the older wing one last time. My plan was simple: document everything, face the darkness, and survive. I approached the hallway leading to room 409 with caution. The familiar weight of the air hit me immediately, heavy, cold, electric. The shadows were thicker tonight, almost solid, moving subtly as if they had a mind of their own. Every instinct screamed at me to turn back, but I forced myself forward. The door to room 409 stood ajar, glowing faintly with the same sickly light I had seen the previous nights. The perfume smell was stronger now, cloying, almost suffocating. I took a deep breath, grabbed my camera, and stepped inside. The room looked empty at first, but then the walls began to ripple, like water, distorting the space. Shadows stretched from the corners, forming shapes, faces, hands, figures frozen in silent screams. I could hear whispers overlapping, some pleading, some threatening. "Stay with us. You can't leave. Why are you here?" A soft creak behind me made me spin. The bathroom door, still closed, slowly opened on its own. And then I saw her, an apparition, faint, translucent, with hollow eyes and a twisted, sorrowful smile. She drifted silently toward me, pointing at the floor, where scratches had formed a crude message. "You belong here." Panic surged through me. My legs moved before my brain caught up. I ran. Through the hallways, twisting corridors, the older wing that now seemed infinite. Shadows reached for me, curling around my ankles, climbing my legs, trying to pull me back into that room. The whispers grew louder, merging into a cacophony of voices, some angry, some sad, some pleading. The hotel itself seemed alive, every floorboard, every wall, every shadow in the hallway conspiring to trap me. I made it to the lobby, gasping, trembling, barely able to stand. The lights flickered one last time, and then everything was calm. The hotel looked ordinary, the shadows gone, the whispers silenced. I didn't wait. I grabbed my bag and fled into the storm outside. The wind tore at my coat, the snow blinded my eyes, but I didn't stop. Behind me, I could feel the hotel's presence, patient and eternal, watching, waiting for the next guest. Days later, I tried to share my experience online. Photos, videos, everything I had captured. People thought I was exaggerating, making it up, but I know the truth. The hotel waits. Room 409 waits. And the shadows are always hungry for the next visitor. I never returned, and I never will. If you enjoyed this terrifying journey through the Coldridge Mountain Hotel, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon, because these haunted experiences don't end here. Share your own haunted hotel stories in the comments below. Who knows, maybe your story will be featured in our next video, if you dare. And remember, some doors, some rooms, are better left